Welcome, everyone, to the Roots of Our Being global experience, in which our journey to the past becomes our quest for our future. Together, we will reconnect with our ancient wisdom and heritage in remembrance of our true spirit and essence. As our modern day structures dissolve, now is the time to invite and welcome in the powerful stories of the soul's journey of renewal and remembrance. I'm your host for this event, Amanda Kulbaba, and today I'm very excited to present Shalene Simoes. Welcome, Shalene. Thank you for being with us today.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me.
Before we dive into your fascinating topic, would like to say a few words about you. Shalene is a Reiki master and soul alchemist. She believes that we all have the power within ourselves to heal and connect with our soul's calling and purpose. She is deeply passionate about helping others tap into their own intuition, align with their true self, and find their peace within. Through the use of different modalities, her aim is to deepen the connection between mind, body, heart, soul, and spirit. When we meet ourselves in our truest form, that's when the magic begins. Her title of topic for today, Soul's Purpose, Discovering Inner Peace Through Soul Alchemy. My first question for you, Shalene. What is soul alchemy and how does it relate to finding one's soul purpose?
Thanks, Amanda. Soul Alchemy is the transformation of all of us on a soul level. So it's really that journey, that process that we take going inward to tap into who we truly are so that we can live in alignment with who we are on a soul level.
Okay, and can you go a bit deeper with that? Like, what does that soul level mean? We we hear all these great words, soul, spirit, all of these really great words, but what does that really mean? And how can somebody really connect with that, or can they feel it? How do they access it? Just a little bit deeper for us to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. And I do get into how a little bit later. Uh, But just to explain what that means on a soul level, I guess the best way to explain it is when we're feeling, I call it kind of feeling stuck and getting unstuck. On a human level, a lot of us, especially in North America, we're in this grind culture, this hustle and bustle. A lot of us are feeling out of alignment with who we are, and that manifests in feelings of frustration, feelings of not knowing who we are. And it's really learning to go within, kind of like in a meditative state, but really tapping into who we are on a soul level. And like I said, I can get into it a little bit later. I had planned to, but really tapping in to who we are, that feeling from an intuitive level. So that we can be in alignment with who we are on a soul level. So it's really finding that balance between the human experience and who we are on a soul level.
Okay, and I love how you brought up being stuck because a lot of us, and I think a lot of us right now too, a lot of people are trying to figure themselves out and figure out where they should be going, how they should be, like what they should be doing. And a lot of people do. I mean, I remember it doesn't even have to be now, but I remember back in my 30s, there was a period where I felt really stuck as well. Can you go a little bit more into why we get stuck? What does that mean? And how do we unstick ourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I felt like that many times in my life. And again, this is where I came up with Soul Alchemy. And even there's a three-step process that I take people through. And it's only through my own experience that I came up with that. And I really, it's important for me to come up with a program that is relatable and that is also very simple. I find that we're in a culture right now where you can't really keep people's attention, so we have to keep it simple. So through my own experience of feeling stuck, I realized that it's really hard for people to get to that point of meditation. Like I said, going within, right? It's very easy to say, go within, meditate, really connect with who we are, but it's not simple to get there. So I had to go through a process of myself. And I really found that looking at the pains of interest, and I call it pains of interest because they really are pains, and really making a list of what is making me feel stuck and really focusing on that. So I started with that. Um, and then I began from the external, going to the internal. So starting externally, like my surroundings, situations around me, what was making me feel stuck. Then moving into my physical body and saying, what am I feeling in my body that's giving me pains? And then going inward and saying, okay, what emotions am I feeling mentally? How am I feeling? And then breaking it down that way. Once I was able to break all of that down, then I was able to identify my vehicle, and I call it identifying my vehicle, like a means of transportation to going within, because meditation can look different for people, different people. Some people get into a meditative state and they don't even realize they are, because meditation is really just being and observing. Um, some people, it could be cooking. Like it just allows them to let those thoughts creep in and then creep out to really like get into a clear state where their answers come to them. Some people, it can be running. Some people, it can be yoga. So it's really walking people through those 3 steps where they can identify where they're feeling stuck. And then once they break that down, identifying what gets them to that place of peace, that meditative state. And then from there, they can go deeper within.
Okay, and just to clarify your 3 steps. So the first step is identifying, like
Yes.
where you sit down and you do that. Sorry, can you just clarify the other 2 steps?
Yeah, so the first step is identifying the pains of interest. So that's really what's causing us to feel stuck and looking at it from external to internally. Then the second step is identifying the vehicle or the means of transportation to getting us to that place where we can feel that sense of peace, where we can go inwards. And then the third step is actually going inwards.
Okay, that's great. I love this because it's like, oh wow. Your first step too, is that more like journaling? Because I know a lot of people will journal, again, how they're feeling, why they're feeling a certain way. Is that what you're a little bit what you're talking about there?
Yeah, I would recommend journaling. I mean, sometimes I go through it in my mind, but it's much easier to have everything down on paper. So really writing down those point of interest. So if we go through the 3 steps, so identifying the points of interest, it's really important when you begin just to write down what those pains are that you're feeling that's making you stuck, not breaking it down in the beginning, just identifying them. And then the second part of that is to break it down. So a couple examples, there was a time where I was feeling unsupported, right? That was the external part. And I mean, with teenagers, it's hard. So I'm doing a lot of the chores, a lot of the cooking, and then my husband's working and I work from home. It was just all these things feeling unsupported. So I wrote that down, right? And another one was financial stress, worried about money. So I wrote that down. Physically in my body, I was getting a lot of low back pain. I've always had low back pain, but it was just getting worse and it was lasting longer. So I wrote down low back pain. And then internally, what I was feeling was just a lot of frustration, a lot of like disease within myself. Um, what I did next, and I do encourage clients to do this. There's a book by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. It's like my go-to Bible when I'm feeling certain pains or illnesses in my body. And I looked up low back pain. So I went to the physical. I looked up low back pain, and sure enough, it correlates to feeling unsupported and worrying about money or financial stress. And anyone can look up that book and look that up, and that's exactly what it says. So then I started to break it down a little bit more. So when it came to feeling unsupported, I had to ask myself, am I really unsupported or am I not asking for help? And that's when I realized I'm not asking for help. So I was creating this within myself on an energetic level, but also on a physical level, because by not asking for help, I was literally carrying the load on my own. So energetically, I was feeling unsupported, but physically, I wasn't being supported, and it was taking a toll on my back. Now, the second pain that I wrote down, worried about money, that one, there's a lot of tough questions I find surrounding that one, because that's when you really need to go within and ask yourself, what do I value? Do I value expensive things? Is it that I want more money because I want expensive things, or do I need more money just to sustain what we have? And do we really need what we have? Do I value that? Or do I value having less, but being happier with less? And then that's what took me to the second and third step, was where I really had to go within and ask myself these tough questions.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I think, we all have to figure out within ourselves how to, like, what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and figure out how do we get to that place that, because for people to, I had myself in my 30s, I went into a place of depression, and it was more of mental. I didn't have so much of the physical stuff, but more of the mental and the depression, and I felt very stuck. And I'd like to go back to Louise Hay. I love Louise Hay. I think I think she's a go-to for all of us. Well, she's like our Bible, like, okay, why do I have this pain now? Or what does this mean? But just for people, because there's a lot of mental health stuff going on out there now, which is, it just tells us that we have moved so far away from our sole purpose and why we are here and what we need to do. And yes, there's probably a lot of fear and blocks to that. But with somebody who is more with the mental health, can you go through those three steps just to give people sort of an idea of working on the mental health
Yeah,
aspect?
that's a great question as well. Yeah, that one's a little bit tougher, and it's hard for us to really take ourselves through those steps when it comes to mental health. So I think first of all, it takes a lot of courage. And then second of all, it takes a lot of honesty. So really being honest with ourselves. So in the case of like depression or anxiety, I would say again, it's kind of breaking that down and saying, where is that coming from? Right? I know it's not as simple as identifying what the cause of it, but where is this discomfort coming from for me? Um, and really writing those things down. I also realized when going through these steps, the second step, identifying your vehicle, that really helped me to create a habit, like a healthy habit for myself. It's really easy to say, I need to get out of bed when I'm feeling down. I need to exercise because it will help me feel better about myself. And we're telling ourselves all these things we need to do, but it's really hard to actually do them. By identifying the vehicle and asking ourselves, what, like when we are depressed or when we are anxious, what makes me feel at peace? Right? So for you, it could be swimming, right? And then just by identifying that and telling yourself what you actually need, you start to create this habit where maybe you would have been home every day and it would have been hard for you to get out of bed and do that. But identifying and saying to yourself, you know what, this brings me peace. It's something that gave you purpose. And now you're going out every day or every other day and you're swimming and it's helping you through that process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That's beautiful. Thank you. Coming back to also, I feel like simplicity. I think, and again, I'm speaking this from a little bit of my own experience, is that we make things bigger than they really are and complicate it. And really, the fine things in life is really simplicity and just really enjoying the small things. We don't need to make things so big and
Absolutely.
complicated.
Yeah, it's so true. And again, that's what I meant by identifying your vehicle. Like I would sit down and I would say, okay, I need to wake up at 6 a.m. and I need to work out. And then I need to go running at 12 p.m. And then 3 days a week, I need to go to yoga. And I mean, if I'm already in this anxious state, I'm just spiraling at that point. But when I was able to identify my vehicle and say, you know what, yoga brings me peace, but maybe not working out at 6 in the morning, right? Running brings me peace. So let me do those things. And again, it wasn't a chore. It was just something I was doing that gave me purpose to feel that sense of peace.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I know you've already started a little bit into this next question, but what led you on this path and why is this work important to you? And I know you have been talking a little bit about it, but if there's anything else that you'd like to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, it was my own experience. But what really hit home with me was 2020. And it was when the world like literally shut down. Things really slowed down. And people started spending more time with their families. I was doing puzzles at home. People were making their own bread. I made my own bread. I mean, our entire family, we each bought a bike. None of us had ridden a bike in years, and we just started riding bikes. Like, just again, those simple things. And I remember telling myself and even people around me, I don't want to forget this. And I told myself I wouldn't, because I know how, especially the North American culture is, everyone would eventually go back to this grind culture, this hustle and bustle, where it's just about surviving and maintaining what we have or even wanting even more. And that's what really made me want to do this work, is because I do notice that there is there's a lot of people forgetting, that remembering is getting lost and we're going back to the way things were.
Yes, and coming back to that simplicity, like, the enjoyment of life. It's not about big grand adventures, though once in a while it's nice.
Yeah.
But it is, yes, it is spending time with family and friends, what is important. And those things that, what you've been saying, those little life pleasures, that's what it's really about, those experiences, experiencing life in your own personal way and finding enjoyment in it. Yes,
Yes.
thank you for that. Yeah, beautiful. How does one um how does one begin their journey in finding their soul's purpose or calling? And what are some of the modalities or tools that you can suggest?
Yeah, so again, this is where I was explaining the 3 steps to the process. So identifying the pains of interest, identifying your vehicle, which we touched on, and then going within. So it's the going within I didn't really dive into too much yet, but that's the important part. And it's not just going within. There's this point when we're in that meditative state, where it's like a subtle shift. And I almost compare it to, like, I feel it in my stomach when I get there. And it's almost like when you're on an elevator. I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, and you jump and you feel that, like, that feeling, that subtle shift in your sacral or in your gut. And that's where the answers lie. And I think that's the important piece for people to realize, is that the answers are all within us. We're usually going to other people looking for answers, right? But the answers are really within us. So I really wanted to create something, and like I said, a simple process, a relatable process, but also one where people realize that the answers are really within themselves. So I'm not giving answers, I'm just guiding you and showing you how you can find it within yourselves, because we have that tool within us. We're all intuitive. And if we could just tap into it, we can really live our life in alignment.
And again, I think I asked this before too, but maybe going a little bit deeper into how somebody, okay, maybe how do you guide us to find those answers within?
Yeah, so once people identify their vehicle and they're able to get comfortable with going within, that's when I think it's easier for people to really start to meditate. I don't want to say formally meditate, but let's just say like just sit there in the morning and meditate with themselves. And once they're there, it's just I really feel like meditation is a great tool, right? Like I don't even need to guide the person. Some people need music, but it's really sitting there and learning to just be and let those thoughts come in and leave just as easily as they come in, and just accepting things as they are and just waiting for that moment. I think it's a part of it is being comfortable with ourselves, really, and allowing that moment to creep in where you really feel that shift, and then saying, okay, now let me ask myself these questions, and now let me wait to see what comes up. And you may not get all the answers in one sitting, so it really does take practice. um, but that's what I would suggest. I don't know if that answered your question.
I think so.
Trying to off.
Yeah. That's okay. That's what we're supposed to do. Um, it brings up to like as people, what is the importance of really going in? So besides, working on our own issues and finding our purpose here, what else can we access by going deep within ourselves?
um I think even on a simple level, like we can find answers to I want to say a simple thing, but if you're invited somewhere and you don't know if this is really something you want to do, right? Or somewhere you want to go, really tapping in and asking yourself, like, is this really for me? Is this somewhere I want to go? Is this something I want to do? I think a lot of times we know, and that's when we go searching externally, asking people, having conversations with loved ones. But if we can just realize that we can tap in and tune in and ask simple questions like that, that could be really helpful.
The purpose of going into it's a little bit of we're regaining our compass.
Yeah.
Yes, we're regaining that intuition that really helps us navigate this world in a safe and an enjoyable way. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I love that.
Um, it's just I think about it a lot, and a lot of speakers too talk about it, so it's sort of in my mind coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
So we have a lot of power within us that really needs to come out if we access it almost. And another thing that came to my mind too when you were talking a little bit before is you mentioned something about our relationship with ourselves and that's what you said, being comfortable with ourselves. And do you think that's why we have separated from ourselves in a way and allowed us, because we really have, everything is a choice in life, and we really have sort of given, we've made a choice to be, and an importance, we've made a choice and we've created this importance to the external world. And we see very much less of the internal world. And is that because maybe to do with trauma or something else where we have really don't really want to have a relationship with ourselves? Would you say, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that part of it is trauma. I really believe a lot of it is overstimulation. Like we just have so much distraction today. So there is that piece of trauma and not wanting to deal with it, and it is tough. But now in a time where we can just pick up our phone and start scrolling or turn on a TV show to kind of just like distract us, it really makes it that much more difficult. And I really think that that is the part, the overstimulation, the screens, like everything that we're exposed to, that's what's really making it difficult for us to connect with ourselves and making it uncomfortable. So again, it's funny, the word uncomfortable. There was a point where it's actually when I came up with these 3 steps and I was just having a really hard time and I was crying and I was praying and I said, I'm no longer comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that's it too, is that we get so comfortable being uncomfortable. It's almost like when people are in a relationship that they're so used to, and they get comfortable, and it's just easier to stay because that's what we're used to. So because we're so used to being in that uncomfortable state, it's almost easier to be there and then distract ourselves with all of these other things around us.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that. That's very interesting. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, we do. We get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think too, just thinking about again, we can all relate this back to our own selves and how we do things, but we know that in with certain people or certain situations, we're going to feel a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of something, but for some reason we just continue to do it instead of going inwards and being like, okay, well, why is this situation or person making me feel this way? What do I have to, maybe it's a projection, maybe it's something I have to heal within myself, or maybe I'm putting myself into a situation where I don't need to be. So yes, very, very interesting. And this again takes us, bringing us back to the roots of our own being. We're not grounded to that anymore. We've pulled away from our roots and who we are. And this is a beautiful process that you've created to help people move back into that place. So thank you. The other thing that I had asked too, but you haven't mentioned, is the different modalities, or maybe that's what you were talking about with meditation. I'm not sure, but if you want to just clarify that for us.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't answer that. So the different modalities I use is yoga, meditation, breath work, energy healing, so Reiki. Um, Sometimes the Akashic records, like an Akashic record reading or an intuitive reading. But I really wanted to kind of take a step back from that because, again, I feel like the reading part of it, it makes people look for the answers outside, where I really want people to look within themselves. Um, and again, the identifying your vehicle. So I do offer these modalities, but I want people to um, really feel within themselves and determine which ones are best for them. So yoga may not work for someone where it really works for me, running or meditation. So really identifying what works for them before offering certain modalities. Like I really want it to be personalized for the person and just again feel in alignment. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. When would it be a time for somebody to seek like a reading or a Reiki treatment or the Akashic? Would there be a time that you would say, yes, this would be good for you?
I think, I mean, I would always recommend Reiki. Yeah, it's very helpful, energy healing. In terms of readings, I think in the beginning, just giving like an overall overview of what the energy is at the beginning and what it's looking like, and seeing if that resonates with the person. Um, so just kind of staying in the present energy, not really looking at what the energy could be or will be, because that could change, especially when they're going through this three-step process. Their energy will change.
Yes, beautiful. Um, how important do you feel it is, especially in today's time, for people to tap into their soul's calling?
I feel it's very important, especially during today's time. Like I said, there's just so much external distraction. There's a lot going on in the world. Um, People are really relying on other people and media and just so many other things to really impact their thinking. So I really feel it's, especially now, it's really important for people to kind of go inwards, and not kind of to go inwards and really ask themselves, like, what do I value? What is important to me? And just really drown out those distractions.
Yes, I almost wonder too, this world, is very much a world, or has been, we're shifting this now, is one of a lot of, illusions. And the Mayans call, another speaker spoke about how the Mayans see the world as mirrors, as projections back at us. And so the amount of chaos that is happening out there right now, it's just like, I don't think we've ever seen this amount of chaos in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it is just off the charts now. What do you feel is happening right now, and where, humanity is transitioning, or is needing to transition? Or, yes, I should just say, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I feel like it's a test. I really do. I feel like it's really testing people to see like what do you value, what's important to you. I mean, like you mentioned chaos, and there is so much chaos, but I have a friend that we joke, and I'm like, I hear so many people getting like up in arms about things, and I'm just like, I don't really it doesn't impact me the way it impacts them, and I guess and it goes back to that mirror that you were saying, right? I'm just not in that headspace. Um, so I really feel it's testing people, and it's making people, really have to look at themselves and determine, like, even what's real to them, right? Like, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yes, definitely. And you keep bringing the word up, value. And I love that. I really, really like it because it's very true right now. It is what we really value. How do we value ourselves? How do we value what we do? And actually, as we speak, Venus is in retrograde right now. So she is bringing up all these lessons for us in valuing ourselves, our own talents and gifts, if we even are connecting and know what those talents or gifts are, which is, again, why did we lose that connection to that aspect of ourselves? And in valuing that, why have we maybe listened to other people? Maybe we had very strong, parents who had their own thoughts and, ways that the path that we were going to take in life, which may not have been the path that we were supposed to take. And also, too, our soul's calling is trying to get us back onto that path, our own path. And valuing this planet is a big thing. And that's what a lot of us are having to, yeah, connect and really look at right now, because Mother Earth is really letting us know that we have not valued her, we have not respected her. And then valuing how we value each other and how we respect each other, how we value what we've created in this life, our governments, our healthcare, our education, everything. We may have to, we're supposed to, and I like the other word that you also used a while ago about being really honest with ourselves. It is hard to be honest with ourselves sometimes and truthful. But that is sort of the key, I think, too, of unlocking the door within ourselves and reconnecting and creating that relationship. It's being very, very honest with ourselves, and knowing that it's okay that we went down maybe a different path, or we've been, in a behavior that might have been destructive towards ourselves or others, and having that honesty and forgiveness there, because that's actually going to, I believe, help us with where we're going on, in shifting the planet and helping other people and Mother Earth heal, and creating new structures, is that honesty.
absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And a part of what you said, about, just us being able to change perspectives, shift perspectives, or, something we once thought or we once did, getting honest with ourselves and realize that wasn't working for us, or it wasn't working for the greater good. And I think people get stuck in this fear of really, being aware of that, because they're afraid to change and they're afraid of people around them and what they're going to say. And it's okay to change. That's the beauty of life. That's part of our lesson. It's part of our journey.
Yeah, perfectly said there. Yes, thank you. And do you also think too, this is just coming up, I've seen this with some people who have come in for treatments with myself, and they're very like open. And I don't know if you've seen this with your own clients, but they're very, very open. They take in everything you say and they're agreeing with everything you say. And you're a little bit like, I'm always in the back of my mind being like, yes, but are you just agreeing to agree with me? Um, and I do wonder too, and I know like these same people, they just continue to do the same behavior. And they do actually, I do find that some people use us therapists as crutches. When things aren't going well in life, they come to us. But I understand, again, we're all working in our own pace and our own way. Um, but I also wanted to bring up the word shame. There is an aspect that we've been programmed with, this emotion of shame, and this goes to being that's blocking maybe that honesty, if you would think, and also that forgiveness within us. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, even that word is still a bit of a trigger for me, shame, because we all feel it, right? And a lot of it I find comes from our inner child, right? It comes from when we're children, because when we come into this world, I mean, we're so innocent. We accept everything, right? And then we start getting like all these beliefs are put on us, all these ideas, again, even values we pick up from the people around us. And anything that goes against that, we start to feel that shame. Um, so when that does creep up, sorry, can you ask your question again? I don't want to go off on a tangent, so I want to make sure I'm answering your question regarding shame.
I can't even remember now because I just like sort of come out in the moment. So yes, now it's coming back to me. So shame as being a block to being honest within ourselves and that block to forgiving ourselves.
Yeah, so sorry. Yes, that is important to work on that because it is a block, right? And like I said, that even that word is still a trigger for me because I still hold some shame. There is, I mean, there is some fear, there is shame within us, and it's really again just learning to kind of go in and tap in within ourselves, asking us where that shame is coming from, why it's coming up for us, and then breaking it down that way. I know I'm making it sound a lot easier than it is. It's a process. But it's really asking, again, going back and asking ourselves that tough question, why do I feel shame? Where is this coming from? Is it even coming from me? Which normally it isn't. It's coming from an experience or someone. And again, a lot of it I find comes from our inner child and when we were young.
Thank you. For some reason, I think that was important to say, or because yes, shame is. I would prefer to feel fear over shame. Shame is probably the lowest vibrating emotion that is just awful. And I think all of us, on some levels, when we feel it, we immediately detach. We immediately go outwards from ourselves. So, yeah. And we can see a lot of shame that's played out in the world and used as a weapon, or an excuse to bad behavior.
Yeah.
um it tends to be wrapped up with sexuality and that programming for us. So yes, really, really nice. Thank you so much for this, and for sharing all of this, because I know that wasn't I sort of popped that out there. I sometimes
Oh,
do
this is
that with
great.
people.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a free gift for us today, which is very generous. I thank you for this. And can you just give everybody a brief description on this free offering?
Yeah, so it's an activation. It actually came to me in a dream. And the goddess Kuan Yin was in my dream. It was an interesting dream, but it was at first said it was a poem, but it's actually an activation because when I say it, I really feel it deep within myself. And I found that it was fitting for this because it's an activation to really just tapping in and asking to call on and be in alignment with your soul's purpose, to really tapping in to who we are. So it's a short activation, but it is repeated. And then I do have like some sound bowls in the back and a little bit of instruments. My son does, he produces music, so he's helped me with that.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. That sounds just beautiful. And you said that you received this in a dream from Kuan Yin, and that's beautiful. Thank you so much. And everybody can find Shalene's free gift in the link underneath this interview. So please check it out. And I thank you again for this beautiful offering for us today. And before we finish, is there any last words of wisdom you have for us? And can you let us know where we can find you online?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's really important for me to just say again that the answers are within us. I really think it's important for people to know that they can trust themselves because really trust begins within ourselves. We can't trust other people if we don't trust ourselves. And I really think it's important that people understand that we hold the key within ourselves. The answers we seek are within us because it's for us. It's our soul speaking to us. So yeah, I'm just very passionate about that. Um, Also, yes, you can find me. I have a website. Paj Wellness is www.pazwellness.ca. I'm also on Instagram, underscore PAZ underscore wellness. And I do have my email that's on my website and on my Instagram page.
Great, thank you for this. And I will have this on Shalene's speaker page, so it's very easy to access and get this information. And I just want to say, Shalene, thank you so much for being here with us today. It has been just so fascinating and interesting, so much insight. And thank you so much for that process that will help people to move inward and connect and work on their own soul alchemy and find their soul purpose. So thank you for all your sharing. It's been beautiful to have you today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. It was so nice speaking with you. It was a great conversation. Thanks.
I want to thank our audience for being here with us today. I hope this has brought you some insight, clarity, wisdom, whatever you need to support you on your path and journey. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you all have a beautiful day. I will see you all very, very soon. So much love and light.